So, guten Abend allerseits.
Let's open with prayer.
Lass uns mit Gebet an. Lieber himmlischer Vater,
thank you for this day so far.
danke für diesen Tag bislang
Thank you that you brought us together now
und danke, dass du uns jetzt hier zusammengebracht hast,
to study your word
um dein Wort zu studieren,
and to gain a little bit more of understanding.
um ein bisschen mehr Verständnis zu bekommen.
And we want to try to connect some dots,
Und wir wollen versuchen, einiges zusammenzubringen,
but we can't do it ourselves. We ask you for your help.
aber das können wir nicht aus uns selbst tun. Wir bitten deswegen um deine Hilfe.
Please help Brother Lawrence to present your word as it stands.
Und bitte hilft Bruder Lorenz, dein Wort so zu verkünden, so wie es ist.
And please give all that listen open ears and open hearts.
Und hilft all diejenigen, die zuhören, offene Ohren und ein offenes Herz.
Please also bless the technique.
Bitte segne auch den Technik
And be invited into all this.
und sei herzlich eingeladen mitten unter uns.
Thank you in Jesus' name.
Und wir danken dir in Jesu Namen.
Amen.
Amen.
Alright, so we will continue with Daniel 9.
So, wir werden mit Daniel 9 fortsetzen.
So let's please turn there.
So, lasst uns in unseren Bibeln dahin.
And I assume that everybody made his homework.
Und ich gehe davon aus, dass jeder seine Hausaufgaben hat.
Then and let's look at those verses that we didn't have the time to look at yesterday evening.
Und lasst uns die Versen in Daniel 9, die wir gestern Abend die Zeit nicht hatten, anzuschauen.
So basically we saw in Daniel 9 it started with in verse 1 and 2 with the first year of the rise.
Wir haben gesehen in Daniel 9, die Verse 1 und 2, das fing an, der erste Jahr von Darius,
Which is 538 BC, the fall of Babylon,
was 538 vor Christus ist, der Sturz von Babylon.
which is the time of the end,
Und das ist der Zeit des Endes.
marking the Sunday law.
Das markiert das Sonntagsgesetz.
Okay, and then beginning in verse 3, he makes now this prayer of Leviticus 26.
Und dann beginnen im Vers 3, fängt er mit diesem Gebet an, der Gebet von 3. Buch Mose 26.
When we just read verses 3 and 4 once more,
Und wenn wir die Verse 3 und 4 nochmal lesen,
it says, "And I set my face unto the Lord God to seek by prayer and supplications with fasting and sackcloth and ashes." So how is he?
wie ist er im Vers 3?
It's fasting and sackcloth and ashes, right?
Fastet, ist in Sacktuch und Asche bekleidet.
"And I prayed unto the Lord my God and made my confession and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him and to them that keep his commandments. We have sinned," verse 5, "and have committed iniquity and have done wickedly and have rebelled, even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgments." So this is, now he's confessing the sins, and we saw he was confessing his sins, the sins of the people and of the fathers. Right?
So, er bekennt seine Sünden und wir haben gesehen, dass er sowohl seine als die Sünden seines Volkes und auch die seines Vaters bekannt.
And he accepts of the punishment,
Und er nimmt die Bestrafung an
and he's humbling his heart. Right?
und er demütigt sein Herz.
And he calls the Lord the great and dreadful God,
Und er nennt den Herrn der große und furchtbare Gott.
just like Nehemiah,
Genauso wie Nehemia,
who called the Lord the great and terrible God. Right?
der nannte den Herrn der große und schreckliche Gott.
And he also then prayed the prayer of Leviticus 26,
Und auch Nehemia hat das Gebet von 3. Buch Mose 26 gebetet.
and he prayed day and night, right?
Und er hat Tag und Nacht gebetet.
Okay, so therefore I suggested that this would be in this time here of the Day of Atonement.
Und aufgrund all dies habe ich vorgeschlagen, dass dieses Gebet in Zeit von der Versöhnungstag sein wird.
And when we go now to Daniel 10,
Und wenn wir zu Daniel 10 gehen,
we definitely also see here that Daniel is humbling himself in this time period here.
du kannst auch sehen, dass Daniel in derselben Zeitperiode hier sich demütigt.
Because he says in verses 2 and 3,
Denn er sagt in die Verse 2 und 3,
in those days I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all, till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. Okay, so how many days is he fasting and praying here?
so, wie viele Tage betete er und fastet hier?
21 days. right?
21 Tage.
And when we go to the reform lines,
Und wenn wir auf die Reformlinien denken,
this would be then fall of Babylon, right?
das wäre denn hier der Sturz Babylons.
This would be then Daniel standing before Cyrus.
Das wäre dann an diesem Weg Marke Daniel, der vor Kyros steht.
And then he was fasting for 21 days and Michael came down, right?
Und dann fastete er diese 21 Tage und dann kam Michael herab.
Yes.
Amen.
Okay, so therefore this would be this period where he's humbling himself, fasting for 21 days.
So, deswegen, das hier wäre diese Zeitperiode, wo er sich demütigt und diese 21 Tage lang fastet.
Okay, but if you would place this story in the Sunday law, then this would be the portion, right?
Aber wenn du
538 and then 21 days.
diese Geschichte in den Sonntagsgesetz legen würde, dann wäre diese selbe Portion hier sein, diese 21 Tage.
So 538 and then 21 days.
5:38 und dann 21 Tage.
Okay, so that's at least my thoughts to it.
So,
Okay.
das sind meine Gedanken dazu.
He comparing Daniel 9 with Daniel 10. Is that what I'm
Yes, I
Die
mean the
Frage
prayer.
ist,
Yes.
vergleicht der Daniel 9 mit Daniel 10? Ja, also das Gebet.
Okay, so when we go back to Daniel 9
Also gehen wir zurück zu Daniel 9
and jump down to verse 20.
und kommt bis Vers 20 hinab.
It says, and whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God, yea, whilst I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. So here we saw Gabriel came at the 9th hour, right?
Bis Vers 21. Hier können wir sehen, dass Gabriel kam zur 9. Stunde.
And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I'm now come forth to give thee skill and understanding. So what is he now giving him?
So, was gibt er ihm jetzt?
Skill and understanding, right?
So, Verständnis und Skill,
Fähigkeit.
Fähigkeit.
Where else do we see this?
Wo können wir das noch sehen?
Yes, in Daniel 1,
In
right?
Daniel 1.
So keep your finger here.
Halte den Platz hier.
So let's go to Daniel 1.
Dann gehen wir zu Daniel 1.
Let's read verse 16 and 17.
Die Verse 16 und 17.
It says, thus Melzer took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink and gave them pulse. So where is this?
So, wo ist dies in Vers 16?
Yes, the end of the investigative judgment.
Ende von Untersuchungsgericht.
So that would be here when he says, take away the filthy garments.
Und das
Right?
wäre denn hier, wo er sagt, nimmt ihm den schmutzigen Gewänden ab.
And then verse 17.
Vers 17.
As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. So here's the skill and understanding given. Right?
So, hier ist diese Fähigkeit und Erkenntnis wieder beschrieben.
So therefore, I'm inclined to place also Daniel 9, verse 22, or 21, 22, then here at the end.
Dann bin ich auch geneigt, Daniel 9, Verse 21, 22 auch hier am Ende zu markieren.
Compare, we parallel this with Daniel 1:17.
Yes. So that would be then this 9th hour.
Das wäre denn hier diese 9. Stunde.
And also when you go to verse 23,
Und auch Vers 23.
At the beginning of thy supplications the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision. So how is Daniel in verse 23?
So, Vers 23, wie ist Daniel?
Greatly beloved. Yes.
So, besonders geliebt.
So keep your finger here.
So, behalte den Platz hier
Let's go to John 16.
und lass uns zu Johannes 16 gehen.
And let's read verses 25 to 27.
Die Verse 25 bis 27.
It says, These things have I spoken unto you in Proverbs. But the time cometh when I shall no more speak unto you in Proverbs, but I shall show you plainly of the Father. At that day ye shall ask in my name, and I say not unto you that I will pray the Father for you, for the Father himself loveth you, because ye have loved me, and have believed that I came out from God. Okay, so what does Jesus say here?
So, was sagt Jesus hier?
She's going to speak plainly.
Yes, he will speak plainly, not in Proverbs anymore. right?
Klartext sprechen, also nicht mehr im Gleichnis.
Okay, and Proverbs are parables.
Und Gleichnissen sind auch Sprüche. Oder
So-
Sprüche sind Gleichnissen.
And Proverbs is also the types and symbols, right?
Und Sprüche sind auch die Typen und Symbole.
So as soon as you're not under 2000 governors anymore, then the Lord will speak plainly, right?
Also, sobald dass du nicht mehr unter Vormundern und Verwaltern bist, dann wird der Herr mit dir Klartext sprechen.
Would be here
Und
then.
das wäre dann hier zur selben Punkt.
Okay, I mean the revelation begins here, but like in Ezekiel 1, you don't really understand it at the beginning fully, but at the end you will fully understand.
Also die Offenbarung fängt zwar hier an, aber genauso wie Hesekiel in Kapitel 1, er versteht das nicht am Anfang, aber am Ende, jetzt zur 9. Stunde, wirst du alles klar verstehen.
And when he speaks plainly to you in verse 27, what does the Father do?
Vers 27, wenn er Klartext mit dir spricht, was tut der Vater?
Father
You.
loves you,
Der
right?
Vater liebt dich.
And Daniel was greatly beloved.
Und Daniel war besonders oder auf große Weise geliebt.
And also it says here in verse 26,
Das sagt auch in Vers 26.
sorry?
The parallel where he says, "This is my beloved."
Yes.
Also
Amen.
es ist wie eine Parallele, wo er sagt, dies ist mein geliebter Sohn.
Yes, amen. And also in verse 26 it says,
Vers 26 sagt
At
es auch
that
noch.
day, so when he speaks not plainly,
So, wenn er Klartext spricht an diesem Tag,
at that day shall ye ask in my name, and I say not unto you that I will pray the Father for you. For the Father himself loveth you, because ye have loved me and have believed that I come out from God. So what is Jesus not doing anymore?
so, was tut Jesus hier denn nicht mehr?
Yes, he's not interceding.
Er tut Fürbitte nicht mehr für
When he
dich.
says it is done,
Er sagt, es ist getan,
then you can speak directly to the Father.
dann kannst du direkt zum Vater sprechen.
Okay. Obviously, in our time, it's just a type for this, but
Natürlich, in unserer Zeit ist das nur ein Typus dafür,
when you have really the second birth, then you can speak directly to the Father.
aber wenn du wahrlich die zweite Geburt gehabt hast, dann kannst du direkt mit dem Vater sprechen.
Okay. So when we go back to Daniel 9,
So, wenn wir zurück zu Daniel 9 gehen,
so therefore Gabriel comes here then at the end and now explains him the 70 weeks.
so Gabriel kommt hier am Ende an und erklärt Daniel diese 70 Wochen.
So let's begin in verse 24.
Wir beginnen in Vers 24.
It says, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. Okay, so first of all, 70 weeks.
So, auf erster Linie diese 70 Wochen.
How many years are this?
Wie viele Jahre sind das?
490, right?
490 Jahre.
And what is it illustrating this period?
Und was stellt diese Periode dar?
490, what
490.
does it symbolize?
Was stellt es dar? Da.
Time of preparation, yes.
Eine Zeit der Probe, der Gnadenzeit.
Where do you know this?
Woher weißt du das?
Because it was historically for the Jews until the close of probation, the stoning of Stephen.
Okay, yes.
Historisch für die Juden, es war bis zur der Schluss der Gnadenzeit bei der Steinigung von Stephanus.
Okay. So keep your finger here in Daniel 10. Let's go to Matthew chapter 18.
Halte den Platz hier in Daniel 10, geht zu Matthäus 18.
And let's read verses 21 and 22.
Verse 21 und 22.
And 22.
21, 22.
Says, Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto you until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Okay, so here the 70 times 7 is 490, is the time of probation.
Also diese 70 mal 7, das macht 490, Zeit der Gnade.
Okay, so let's go back
So,
to
gehen wir
Daniel
zurück,
9.
Daniel 9.
So therefore the 70 weeks or the 490 years brings you to the end of probation. Right?
Diese 70 Wochen oder 490 Jahre bringt dich zum Ende von der Gnadenzeit.
Okay. And it also then says, and at the end of this period, what happens there as well?
Und es sagt auch weiter, am Ende von dieser Zeitperiode, was geschieht noch?
According to verse 24.
Gemäß Vers 24.
Yes, so finish.
Ende von Sünden.
Yes, so, but before that it says finish the transgression.
Und noch davor, also ein Ende von Übertretung machen.
Jesus said it is finished, right?
Jesus sagt, es ist vollbracht.
And to make an end of sins,
Und ein Ende von Sünden machen.
and we understand this is also the end here,
Wir
right?
verstehen, dass das am Ende ist eben das Ende.
And to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness. So it's all speaking about this cross experience and this blotting out of sin.
So spricht alles über diese Kreuzeserfahrung und diese Austilgung der Sünde.
Okay, so brings us all to this end here.
Das bringt uns alle zu diesem Ende hin.
Okay, let's note it down. Finish. Transgression.
So ein Ende von Übertretung machen,
End of sin.
auch ein Ende von Sünde machen.
And then make reconciliation for iniquity.
So Wiedergutmachung für die Übertretung.
Reconciliation. Everlasting righteousness.
So ewige Gerechtigkeit.
And then it also says,
Und dann sagt es auch noch,
and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy.
die Vision und der Prophetie zu versiegeln und der Allerheiligste zu salben.
Okay, so do we have a anointing taking place here?
So gibt es eine Salbung, der hier stattfindet.
Yes.
Eben doch.
So anointing. And
The
This-
most holy would be in the heart, right?
Also das,
The most holy place in the temple signifies the heart.
das Allerheiligste wäre denn das Herz, wenn man das als der Allerheiligste im Tempel bezeichnet.
yes. Okay. And this sealing up of the vision and prophecy,
Und das Versiegeln von Vision und Prophetie,
I don't fully understand why this is marked here. Okay.
is established in your mind. So I don't understand. Sealed in your mind.
Well, no, because it's marked in Revelation 10.
Weil es ist in Offenbarung 10 markiert.
7 thunders, you mean? Or-
Yeah, October 22nd, He's marking these two waymarks, right? It says when the seven thunders was about to write, it was told seal up the vision. That's the fulfillment of this, right?
Yes.
Also in Offenbarung 10, als er die Vision schreiben wollte, er sagt, nein, versiegele die Vision und das ist eine Erfüllung hier.
Yes. I mean, we always have this dilemma to understand why one illustration marks the unsealing of the vision here and then also the sealing up of the vision.
So, wir hatten immer diese Schwierigkeit zu vereinen, dass der eine Darstellung ist der Vision hier geöffnet, andere Darstellung ist es versiegelt.
So, can't fully explain it yet, but we definitely had this thought that it refers to two different groups. For one it's sealed up, and for the other ones it's unsealed. Okay.
Ich kann es nicht vollständig erklären jetzt, aber wir hatten immer diesen Gedanke, dass es für den eine Gruppe versiegelt ist und für die andere entsiegelt.
Because when we go to Isaiah chapter 30, I think it is.
Und wenn wir zu Jesaja Kapitel 30 gehen,
Speaks here about the wicked.
hier spricht es über den Bösen.
And let's begin in verse 9.
Und wir fangen in Vers 9 an.
And we'll read down to verse 12.
Und wir lesen bis Vers 12,
Or until verse 13.
sogar Vers 13.
It says, Stay yourselves and wonders, cry ye out and cry.
Will you read it?
Sorry, Isaiah 29, not 30.
Also Jesaja 29, nicht 30. Vers 9 bis 13.
It says, Stay yourselves and wonder, cry ye out and cry, they are drunken, but not with wine, they stagger, but not with strong drink. For the Lord hath poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and hath closed your eyes, the prophets and your rulers, the seers, hath he covered. And the vision of all is become unto you as the words of a book that is sealed, which man delivered to one that is learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed. And the book is delivered to him that is not learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I am not learned. Wherefore the Lord said, For as much as this people draw near me with their mouth and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of man. In verse 14 maybe also, Therefore, behold, I will proceed to do a marvelous work among this people, even a marvelous work and a wonder, for the wisdom of the wise man shall perish, and the understanding of the prudent man shall be hid. Okay, so here we can see this is basically when this is now sealed up to them, the vision.
So hier können wir sehen, diese Vision ist für sie versiegelt.
Because there will be definitely one group that will be left in complete darkness.
Und es wird auf jeden Fall eine Gruppe, die hier in vollständigen Finsternis gelassen wird.
Okay, and this is this group here mentioned in Isaiah 29.
Und das ist diese Gruppe, die hier in Jesaja 29 erwähnt ist.
Okay, so when we go back to Daniel chapter 9,
So, gehen wir jetzt zurück zu Daniel 9.
so therefore I suggest this 490 years
So, ich schlage deswegen vor, dass diese 490 Jahre
is also then in here.
ist
Right.
auch hier drin.
Marks, because historically it had the same beginning as the 2300,
Denn historisch hat es denselben Anfang wie der 2300.
and it leads you also down to the close of probation when all these things will
Und
take place.
es führt auch bis zur Schluss der Gnadenzeit, wo all diese Dinge erfüllt werden.
Okay.
Zumindest hier im Typus.
And it also says it's the vision, right?
Und es sagt auch, dass es ist das Vision.
In Habakkuk it says it speaks about the vision that will speak at the end.
Und in Habakkuk spricht über die Vision, die am Ende sprechen wird.
And the vision, what is the vision?
Und der Vision ist was? The Charms.
It's the effect of every vision.
Das ist die Erfüllung eines jeden Visions.
So all the visions come here together as one vision.
So, all diese Visionen, die kommen hier zusammen als einer.
Everybody sees this?
Kann jeder das sehen?
So now let's continue.
So, lesen wir weiter.
Verse 25.
Vers 25.
It says, Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The streets shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. Okay, so when is Messiah coming up?
So, wann kommt der Messias auf?
The baptism. Yes.
Bei der Taufe.
And the baptism is when?
Der Taufe ist wann?
The appointed time. Yes.
So, bestimmte Zeit.
Okay, so here. Messiah comes.
So, der Messias kommt.
And this baptism.
Das ist bei seiner Taufe.
And then it also speaks about the wall, right?
Er spricht hier auch über der Mauer.
It says the street shall be built again in the wall, even in troublous times. Okay, so historically, who built the wall?
So, historischerweise, wer hat den Mauer gebaut?
Nehemiah, right?
Nehemiah.
Okay, and it was in the time of trouble, it says here.
Das war
Okay.
in der Zeit des Trübsals,
So
wie es
this
hier
is
sagt.
the time of trouble,
Das
right?
ist der Zeit des Trübsals.
And this was within these first 7 weeks that are mentioned here.
Und das war innerhalb von diesen 7 Wochen, die ich hier erwähnt habe.
Okay, now, and what is the wall illustrating?
Und was stellt der Mauer dar?
The law, putting the law back in place.
Also das Gesetz,
Yes.
also das Gesetz wiederherstellen.
Exactly, yes. This is why it says the wall is the law of God.
Ellen White sagt, dass der Mauer,
Repairing the breach.
das Gesetz, das Mauer ist das Gesetz Gottes.
Yes. Repairing the breach. So,
Also das Wiederherstellen von der Bruch,
the Bresche.
Bresche.
Yes. So just keep your finger here. Let's go to Isaiah 61, just to confirm
Halte
this.
den Platz hier und geht zu Jesaja 61.
And let's read verse 4.
Vers 4.
Actually, this is a little bit. This is a different illustration. You'll just see this, but doesn't matter. Let's read this for now.
Also es ist eine andere Darstellung hier, aber wir werden das jetzt lesen.
It says, "And they shall build the old wastes, and they shall raise up the former desolations. They shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations." Okay, but here it speaks about the work in the little town of peace, because
Aber hier spricht es über das Werk in kleiner Zeit des Friedens.
in verse 1 it's the anointed one who goes now forth and does this work. Okay,
In Vers 1 ist es der Gesalbte, der vorgeht, um diesen Werk zu tun.
so it's a different illustration, but let's go to, where is it? Micah chapter 7.
Aber lasst uns zu Micha Kapitel 7 gehen.
That speaks about the wall.
Da spricht es
Being
über
built.
der Mauer.
So let's begin in verse 1,
Vers 7, 1.
chapter 7, verse 1. Yeah.
Kapitel 7 und Vers 1.
Everybody there?
Wieder da?
It says, "Woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the grape gleanings of the vintage. There's no cluster to eat, my soul desired first ripe fruit." So what is he saying?
Was sagt er hier?
Woe is me.
Wer ist mir?
Okay. Like Isaiah, right?
So wie Jesaja.
And then he goes on to say in verse 2,
Sagt er weiter, Vers 2.
"The good man has perished out of the earth, and there's none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net. That they may do evil with both hands earnestly, the prince asketh, and the judge asketh for reward, and the great man, he uttereth his mischievous desire, so they wrap it up. The best of them is as a briar, the most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The day of thy watchman and thy visitation cometh. Now shall be their perplexity. Trust ye not in a friend, Put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. For the son dishonoureth the father, the daughter riseth up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the man of his own house. So where would take us?
Bis
Where would
Vers 6.
this take us?
Wo würde das uns hinbringen?
Yes, but what other scripture?
So,
Would be
welche
parallel.
weitere Schriftstelle ist das ein Parallel?
Your friend or
Yes,
um,
yes, Luke 21, right?
So, Lukas 21.
Keep your finger here in Matthew 7. Let's go to Luke 21.
Halte den Platz hier und geht zu Lukas 21.
Because it says your own enemies will be the one in your household, right?
Es sagt dann, Feinde werden die deines eigenen Hauses sein.
Luke 21.
Lukas 21.
It says in verse 16, verse 16.
Vers 16 sagt.
Let's read verse 12 and then verse 16.
Vers 12 und dann Vers 16.
But before all these they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And verse 16.
Vers 16.
And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. So this is here now your own people
So, das
will
ist
deliver you up.
dein eigenen Volk hier, der dich ausliefern will.
it's in Matthew 10.
Matthew 10, yes. Let's go there.
Matthäus 10.
So let's go to Matthew 10
Lass
also.
uns zu Matthäus 10 gehen.
And then verses 35 to 36.
Die Verse 35, 36.
Well, I'll just begin in verse 17 and 18.
Oder wir fangen die Verse 17 und 18 an.
But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in the synagogues, and ye shall be brought before governors and kings, for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. So it's again same point when you're delivered up, right?
Das ist derselbe Punkt, wo du ausgeliefert wirst.
And then verse 35 to 36.
Und jetzt die Verse 35, 36.
For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. So here we see this illustration, right?
Hier können wir derselbe Darstellung sehen.
So therefore, when they deliver you up, this is when you cannot trust in anybody. Okay.
Wenn die dich ausliefern, dann kannst du sie nicht vertrauen.
So when we go back to Micah 7,
Zurück zur Micha 7.
and let's continue in verse 7.
Und lesen wir weiter in Vers 7.
Micah 7:7.
Micha 7, Vers 7.
Says, therefore, I will look unto the Lord, I will wait for the God of my salvation, my God will hear me. So, what do you need to do?
Was musst du tun?
Tarry upon the Lord, right?
Das Warten auf den Herrn.
It says that in Isaiah 30.
Yes, blessed are they that
We
wait
read
upon
them, he says, "I will hear them."
So sagt es auch in Jesaja 30, gesegnet sind die, die auf ihn warten, er wird sie hören.
Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy.
Vers 8.
When I fall, I shall rise, and when I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. I will bear the indignation of the Lord, because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. So this is then when he will bring you out of this darkness. Okay,
Vers 9, das ist, wenn er dich aus dieser Finsternis herausbringen wird.
this is this time of darkness when the Lord hides his face before you, right?
Das hier ist diese Zeit der Finsternis, wo der Herr sein Angesicht vor dir verbirgt.
And especially in this little time here, right?
Insbesondere in diese kleine Zeit hier.
Okay. And then it says, verse 10,
In Vers 10 sagt es,
then she that is my enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her, now shall she be trodden down as mire of the streets. Who was trodden down as mire of the streets?
so, wer ist niedergetreten worden wie das Schlamm der Straße?
God's people by their serving.
So,
Okay, yes, but here it speaks about the enemies, right?
Das Volk durch die Erzähler, richtig, aber hier spricht es über die Feinde.
It speaks about she.
Und es spricht in dem Sinne, dass die Feinde ein Sie ist,
It's this woman, right?
diese Frau.
Let's go to, keep your finger here, let's go to 2 Samuel
So, halte den Platz hier und geht zum 2. Samuel
22,
22,
in the verses 41 to 44.
2. Samuel 22, Verse 41 bis 44.
It's actually not the verses that I wanted to look at.
What is it you're referring to?
Was actually thinking about Jezebel.
That's what I was going to say, but right here I thought.
I mean, it also speaks here about the enemies that get stamped in the mire here in verse 43. But it's not the verse I wanted to look at.
First Kings.
Anyways, I don't have it now at hand where this exact verse is. But Jezebel was this enemy, and she and Ahab, they also were trodden down.
Yeah. I mean, it says in 2 Kings,
Okay, yes, let's go 2 Kings in chapter 9.
in chapter 7 it says,
Könige 9.
Yes.
I mean, you can see that they can't see her anymore because she's been liberated.
So let's go to 2 Kings chapter 9 and let's read verse. Here in verse 30.
2. Könige 9, und beginnen Vers 30.
This is now when Jehu comes and kills Jezebel.
Wenn Jehu kommt und Isabel tötet.
It says, and when Jehu was come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her face and tied her head, and looked out a window. And as Jehu entered in at the gate, she said, had Zimri peace, who slew his master? And he lifted up his face to the window and said, who is on my side? Who? Who's on the Lord's side, right?
So wer ist auf dem Seite des Herrn verglichen hier?
And there looked out to him 2 or 3 eunuchs. And he said, throw her down. So they threw her down, and some of her blood was sprinkled on the wall and on the horses, and he trod her underfoot. So here we can see that she was trodden down underfoot.
So
Right?
hier können wir sehen, dass sie unter den Füßen getreten wurde.
And when she was come in, he did eat and drink, and said, go, see now this cursed woman, and bury her, for she is a king's daughter. And they went to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull, and the feet, and the palms of her hands. Wherefore they came again and told him, and he said, this is the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, in the portion of Jezreel shall dogs eat the flesh of Jezebel. And the carcass of Jezebel shall be as dung upon the face of the field in the portion of Jezreel, so that they shall not say, this is Jezebel. Okay.
Or if you go to Matthew 7 and verse 6, it just gives you another confirmation to that.
Okay, Matthew
7,
7.
6.
Matthäus 7 und Vers 6.
Because she was cast to the dogs, right?
Yes.
And it says, give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before the swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. So the dogs
Trample down.
trample you under their feet.
Also die Hunde treten dich unter den
And
Füßen,
that's what they did to Jezebel.
Yes.
was sie Isabel tat.
And Jezebel, in the book of Revelation, who is she?
Und Isabel in das Buch Offenbarung, wer ist sie?
People.
The papacy.
Der
Right?
Papst.
Okay, so, and the dogs that will devour her are the 10 kings, right?
Und die Hunde, die sie verzehren werden, sind die 10 Könige.
Okay. So, therefore, when we go back to Micah chapter 7,
So deswegen, wenn wir jetzt zu Micha Kapitel 7 zurückgehen,
What have you read before?
in 2 Kings chapter 9, verse 30 to 37.
2. Könige 9,
30 to 37.
30 bis 37.
Okay, now Micah 7, verse 10 again.
Micha 7, Vers 10 wieder.
So this enemy, this woman, here is Jezebel. Okay.
Diese Feind, diese Frau hier ist Isabel.
Says, then she that is mine enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her, now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. And this was here at the end of the 1260, right?
Das war hier am
1798.
Ende der 1260, 1798 geschehen.
Yes.
Amen.
And then it says in verse 11,
Denn in Vers 11 sagt es,
in the day that their walls are to be built, in that day shall the decree be far removed. Okay. So in this day, when she's trodden down, what happens to the wall?
so in diesem Tag, wo sie niedergetreten ist, was geschieht mit der Mauer?
The wall's built.
It's built.
Es ist gebaut.
And what happens with the decree?
Und was geschieht mit der Dekret?
It's removed.
It's far removed.
Es
Okay.
ist entfernt.
Which is, when you keep your finger here, when you go to Joel chapter 2,
Halte den Platz hier und geht zurück zu Joel Kapitel 2.
and let's begin in verse 12.
Und fangen wir in Vers 12 an.
Joel 2, verse 12.
Joel 2, Vers 12.
Says, therefore also now, saith the Lord, turn ye even to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning, and rend your heart and not your garments, and turn unto the Lord your God. For he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repenteth him of the evil. So this is the time of the Day of Atonement when you need to afflict your souls, right?
Das ist die Zeit von Tag der Versöhnung, wo du deine Seele peinigen sollst.
Yes.
Amen.
Where Daniel was fasting and praying and humbling himself, right?
Wo Daniel gefastet und gebetet hat und sich gepeinigt hat.
Okay, and then it also says here, verse 17.
Vers 17, will ich back in Micah.
No, Joel 2:17.
Joel 2, Vers 17 sagt,
Let the priests, the ministers of thy Lord, weep between the porch and the altar, and let them say, Spare thy people, O Lord, and give not thine heritage to reproach, that the heathen should rule over them. Wherefore should they say among the people, Where is their God? So, what are God's priests and ministers to do here?
so was soll Gottes Priestern und Dienern hier tun?
Weep between the porch and the altar.
Die
Right?
sollen heulen zwischen der Säulenhalle und dem Altar.
And what are the wicked do
Und was tun die Bösen?
between the porch and the altar?
Zwischen der Säulenhalle und dem Altar. Not the-
Worship.
Yeah, they worship the sun, right?
So, die beten den Sonne an.
Which is the fourth abomination, right?
Was der vierte Gräueltat ist.
Okay, which is this parallel to this fourth beast, right? The
Parallel
fourth
is-
beast is the fourth abomination.
Parallel ist diese vierte Tier. Vierte Tier ist diese vierte Gräuel.
And we showed that these four beasts or these four metals are the four abominations, right?
Wir haben gesehen, diese vier Tiere, diese vier Metalle sind diese vier Gräuel.
And also when you keep your finger here
Und halte den Platz hier
and go to Matthew 23,
und geht zu Matthäus 23.
and here he rebukes the Pharisees.
Und hier tadelt den Pharisäern.
And let's read verse 35.
Und wir lesen Vers 35.
It says, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zechariah son of Berechias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. So where did they kill Zecharias?
So, wo haben sie
Prophet.
Zacharias, der Prophet, getötet?
Yes, between the porch and the altar. Right?
Säulenhalle und Altar.
So There's no porch and altar.
So, das ist zwischen Säulenhalle und Altar hier oben.
Okay. And you need to humble yourselves, because when you humble yourselves, when we go back to Joel 2,
So, wenn wir zurück zu Joel 2, wir müssen uns demütigen, denn wenn wir uns demütigen,
between the porch and the altar,
zwischen Säulenhalle und Altar,
then verse 18 to 20.
dann die Verse 18 bis 20.
Then will the Lord be jealous for his land and pity his people. Yea, the Lord will answer and say unto his people, Behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and ye shall be satisfied therewith, and I will no more make you a reproach among the heathen. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea, and his sting shall come up, and his ill savour shall come up, because he hath done great things. So what will he do in verse 20?
So, was wird er in Vers 20 tun?
Remove the northern arm.
Yeah, he will remove the northern army.
Das Nordarmee entfernt.
And in Micah 7, we read, he will, the decree will be far removed from you,
In
right?
Micha 7 haben wir gelesen, dass das Dekret weit von dir entfernt wird.
Because what do all the kings do here in Daniel 3 and 6 and 2?
Was tun alle Könige hier in Daniel 3 und 6 und Daniel 2?
And they make a counter decree,
Die machen
right?
ein Gegendekret.
Okay, so this,
But you can see the decree in Isaiah 10 verse 1. It's the northern army.
yes.
Also du kannst der Dekret sehen in Jesaja 10 Vers 1, dass das eine Nordarmee ist.
So death decree removed,
So der Todesdekret entfernt
and wall built.
und der Mauer ist gebaut.
Okay, so the law of God is now re-established, okay,
So,
because the
das
Sunday law is now removed.
Gesetz Gottes ist wieder etabliert, weil das Sonntagsgesetz ist jetzt entfernt.
Yes.
Amen.
But in Daniel 9 we read it's to be re-established in troublous times.
Aber in
Okay.
Daniel 9 haben wir gelesen, dass es wiederhergestellt werden soll in Zeiten des Trübsals.
And historically it referred to the 7 weeks.
Und historisch gesehen, das bezieht sich auf diese 7 Wochen.
It was 7 weeks and 62 weeks.
So,
Okay.
7 Wochen und 62 Wochen.
So 7 weeks is how long?
7 Wochen sind wie lange?
42.
Almost
Nein.
49.
Sorry.
49.
Okay. And 62 weeks led you to the Messiah, right?
Und 62 Wochen führte bis zur Messias.
And how much is 62 weeks?
Und wie viele ist 62 Wochen?
400? Yes,
434.
exactly. Okay. So, yeah, so all these time prophecies, they are just a repeat and a large on top of each other.
So, all diese Zeitpropheten, die sind nur eine Erweiterung oder eine Wiederholung und Vergrößerung aufeinandergelegt.
This is this troublous time.
Das hier ist diese Zeiten des Trübsals.
Okay, so therefore we can see over and over again, especially when you, you need to humble yourself right away from the beginning, but especially when you come to this point here, the Lord shows you, now you need to really afflict your souls, okay?
So, wir können wieder und wieder sehen, dass in dieser Zeit, du sollst dich peinigen, also die ganze Zeit entlang, aber besonders hier, an diesem Punkt, du musst deine Seelen besonders peinigen.
And when therefore the vaccination decree comes,
Und deswegen, wenn dieser Impfdekret oder Zwang aufkommt,
we need to understand we won't be like these superheroes there and be strong and
also wir müssen verstehen, wir werden nicht wie die Helden dastehen, stark und unbeweglich.
but we will be like really,
And thy weakness.
we will be really weak. Yes.
Also wir werden wirklich schwach sein.
And people will despise us for our weakness.
Und die
Okay,
Menschen werden uns unsere Schwäche wegen verachten.
okay, but we need to endure this walk of shame.
Aber
Okay,
wir müssen diesen Schandenmarsch sozusagen aushalten oder ausharren.
and then our enemies will look like to triumph over us.
Und es wird
What is
sich
fine.
so der Erscheinen geben, als wäre unsere Feinde über uns triumphieren.
And only by humbling ourselves and trusting in God, He then will turn it around.
Und nur indem, dass wir uns demütigen und in Gott vertrauen, wird er die Sachen zu unserer Gunsten wandeln.
Amen.
Amen.
Keep this in mind. This is very important. Okay.
Behalte das in den Sinne, denn dies ist ein sehr wichtiger Punkt.
Okay. So let's go back to Daniel 9.
Gehen wir jetzt zurück zu Daniel 9.
Now let's continue verse 26.
Und wir fahren fort in Vers 26.
It says, And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. So therefore we can see the 62 weeks marks also the end of the 62 weeks. What does it also mark?
Also das Ende von 62 Wochen, was markiert es auch noch? Cross.
Yeah, the cross.
Das Kreuz.
Messiah cut off.
Der Messias wird
And this
abgeschnitten.
is just, how do we know that this is biblical?
Und woher wissen wir, dass dies biblisch ist?
Because the Messiah was to come, but also the cross is marked here.
Also
Okay.
der Messias soll kommen, aber auch das Kreuz ist hier markiert.
The Messiah was what again?
Der Messias war was? Anointed.
Baptism, right?
Also der Taufe.
So the baptism and the cross are put together. And where else do we see the baptism and the cross
So
put together?
Taufe und das Kreuz sind zusammen. Und wo sehen wir das noch? Taufe und das
Yes, in Romans
Kreuz
6.
zusammengebracht werden. Also es ist in Römer 6.
And this, for the sake of the people, let's read it. Keep your finger here. Let's go to Romans 6.
Halte den Platz hier und gehen wir zu Römer 6 und lesen wir das.
Verses 3 and 4.
Die Verse 3 und 4.
Know ye not that so many of us as were baptized into Jesus Christ were baptized into his death, the death of the cross, right?
Das Tod am Kreuz.
Therefore we are buried with him by baptism into death, that like as Christ was raised up from the dead after he died on the cross,
So, nachdem am Kreuz starb, war vom Tod auferweckt.
by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life. So it clearly connects the baptism with the death and resurrection of Christ on the cross.
So, das ist klar, das verbindet hier die Taufe mit das Tod und der Auferstehung von Christus am Kreuz.
Okay, so let's go back to
So,
Daniel 9.
zurück zu Daniel 9 wieder.
So let's read verse 26 again.
Vers 26 wieder.
And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof, of the city and the sanctuary, shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. Okay, so what is described here?
So, was ist hier beschrieben?
Amos 8:8. The flood was where the virgins come to the closed door and realize that it can't get nothing.
Yes.
So, Amos 8,8, wo die Jungfrauen zum Tor kommen und sie stellen fest, dass sie nichts bekommen.
But what event is marked here?
Aber welches Ereignis ist hier markiert? Flood.
Yeah, destruction of Jerusalem. Right?
Zerstörung von Jerusalem.
Okay, so just mark it now here for space sake, destruction.
Same flood that you see in Isaiah 28.
Yes. Of Jerusalem.
Das ist dieselbe Flut wie in Jesaja 28.
Yes, that's true, but I want to go now to Luke 17. Keep your finger here, please go to Luke 17.
Halte den Platz hier. Zu Lukas 17.
Let's read verses 26 to 30.
Die Verse 26 bis 30.
It speaks now about here the second coming of Christ.
Er spricht über das zweite Kommen Christi.
Let's maybe begin in verse 24 and then we read verse down to 30.
So, beginnen wir in Vers 24.
It says, For as the lightning that lighteneth out of the one part under heaven shineth unto the other part under heaven, so shall also the Son of Man be in his day. So it speaks about which day?
So spricht über welchen Tag?
The day of the Lord. Right?
So, Tag des Herrn.
But first must he suffer many things and be rejected of this generation. And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also be in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. So here it speaks about the flood, right?
Hier spricht es über den Flut.
Compares it with Christ's coming.
Es vergleicht es mit das Kommen Christi.
Verse 28.
Vers 28.
Likewise, also as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. So now it connects it with the destruction of the cities.
So hier verbindet es mit der Zerstörung der Städte.
Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. Okay, so
Vers 30.
therefore this flood here
So deswegen diese Flut hier.
has also this fire from heaven. Okay,
Es ist auch diese Feuer vom Himmel her.
both destroys Jerusalem.
Beide zerstören Jerusalem.
Okay, now let's go back to Daniel 9.
Gehen wir zurück zu Daniel 9.
And it says here at the end of verse 26,
Und am Ende von Vers 26 ist sagt,
it says, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined.
bis zum Ende des Kriegs Zerstörungen sind bestimmt.
Okay, so what is determined?
Was ist bestimmt?
Desolations, plural. Right?
Zerstörungen, also
Yes.
Mehrzahl.
It's the two desolating powers,
Und
right?
zwei zerstörende Mächte.
So the daily and the transgression of desolation.
So,
Okay,
das tägliche und das Übertretung der Verwüstung.
brings you to the end of the war.
Das bringt dich
Okay.
zum Ende vom Krieg.
So
This is at the end, it shall speak.
yes. And when the war is ended, what time comes?
Und wenn der Krieg zu Ende ist, was für eine Zeit kommt? Time of Peace.
Time of peace. Okay.
Zeit des Friedens.
So therefore, this is a time of war.
So,
Okay.
deswegen dies hier ist eine Zeit des Kriegs.
Troublous times. Right?
So, Zeiten des Trübsals.
When you know, go to keep your finger here. Let's go to Isaiah 40.
So, haltet den Platz hier und geht zu Jesaja 40.
Let's read the verses 1 and 2.
Und lesen die Versen 1 und 2.
It speaks also about this war that is now ended.
Spricht auch über diesen Krieg, der jetzt zu Ende ist.
It says, comfort ye, my people, saith your God. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem, and cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished. What is accomplished?
So, was ist
Her
abgeschlossen?
warfare, right?
Den Krieg.
That her iniquity is pardoned, for she has received of the Lord's hand double for all her sins. Okay, so when the war is accomplished, what is also
Wenn
happening?
dieser Krieg vollendet ist, was ist auch noch?
Iniquity is pardoned, right?
Übertretung oder Sünde ist vergeben.
So because it's always this war between truth and error, between righteousness and unrighteousness.
Das ist immer dieser Krieg zwischen Wahrheit und Irrtum, Gerechtigkeit und
And it
Ungerechtigkeit.
says, until 2,300 days, then shall be the sanctuary cleansed.
Und
Right?
es sagt 2300 Tage und dann wird das Heiligtum gereinigt werden.
Iniquity is pardoned.
Die Sünde ist vergeben.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Now, last verse, 27.
Letzter Vers 27, also zurück in Daniel 9.
Daniel 9, 27.
Daniel 9, 27.
And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week shall he cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Okay, so we had these 49 years, the 490, the 49, the 434 years.
So, wir hatten diese 490, 49 und 434
Now we
Jahre
have
Zeit.
this 1 week, how many years?
Und dann diese eine Woche ist wie viele Jahre?
7.
7 Jahre.
And then it says in the midst of the week,
Und dann sagt es, inmitten der Woche
was the cross, right?
war das Kreuz Christi abgeschnitten.
And then you have 1260 here and 1260 here, right?
Dann gibt es 1260 hier und 1260 hier.
So 3.5, 3.5.
3,5 und 3,5.
Okay. And it also then speaks about what happens also here at the end.
Er spricht auch über das, was hier am Ende passiert.
And for the overspreading of abominations.
Das Verbreiten von Gräueln.
The abominations are also these desolations, right?
Also
The
diese-
two abominations. Right?
Gräueln sind auch diese verwüstende Mächte, diese zwei Gräueln.
He shall make it desolate. What does he make desolate?
Was machte er wüst oder kaputt?
Yeah.
The Abominations.
No, Jerusalem, right?
Ach so, Jerusalem.
Yes. So this speaks here about the destruction of Jerusalem. Let's just read
Spricht
the
hier über
verse
die Zerstörung Jerusalems.
27 again.
Vers 27 lesen wir weiter.
And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that the term shall be poured upon the desolate.
Just confirming verse 26 where he says,
Yes.
he shall come and shall destroy the city. That's what is it, the it, but it's
Yes.
not
And it also speaks in verse 24 that 70 weeks are determined upon God's people and Jerusalem, right?
Sagt Vers 24, 70 Wochen sind bestimmt über Gottes Volk und Jerusalem.
Okay, so therefore it brings you here again to the destruction of Jerusalem.
So, das
Okay.
bringt dich hier wieder zu der Zerstörung von Jerusalem.
Okay, so everybody could follow along?
Kann jeder folgen?
And that just confirms this point that remember we used to have this, Jeff used to put an R on the end of desolate, but it's not. It's actually, that confirms poured upon the desolate. Those that are barren,
Mhm.
receive the punishment.
Also, diese letzte Wort in Vers 27, es sagt, also diejenigen, die wüst sind, und es war ein altes Argument, dass der Verwüster war gemacht, also ein R darauf gemacht worden ist. Aber es spricht hier eher über diejenigen, die wüst sind im Sinne, dass sie keine Kinder gebären können.
Yeah, because he was basically saying it's punishment in Rome. It's not as the punishment in Jerusalem.
Er sagt, Jeff hat früher gesagt, dass das die Bestrafung auf Rom war, aber es ist die Bestrafung auf Jerusalem.
I mean, at the same time where Jerusalem is punished, Rome
Yeah,
will
different-
also punish.
Different
But,
line,
yes.
but it's not here.
Also das wird wohl zur selben Zeit passieren, also es ist eine andere Linie, aber es ist nicht hier.
Yes, because what is determined is because it speaks here about the cross, right? Why was Jerusalem destroyed?
Er spricht hier über das Kreuz. Warum war Jerusalem zerstört?
Because they rejected Christ.
Yeah, because they rejected Christ.
Weil sie
Right?
Christus verworfen haben.
And actually, I just remembered, and I will look it up again, because when Jesus speaks about in Matthew 24 verse 15 about the abomination of desolation,
Wenn Jesus in Matthäus 24, Vers 15 über der Gräuel der Verwüstung spricht,
as mentioned in the prophet Daniel,
so wie es in der Prophet Daniel erwähnt ist,
pioneers they link it to this verse here,
die Pioniere, die verbinden es mit diesem Vers hier.
and they also apply it then to pagan Rome because this here was pagan Rome.
Sie wenden es auch hier heidnischen Rom an, weil das hier war auch heidnischen Rom.
Okay, so it speaks about here this Roman army that now destroys Jerusalem.
So spricht hier über diese römische Armee, der Jerusalem zerstört.
I will post it later on in the live stream group.
Ich werde das später in den Livestream-Gruppe posten.
Okay, so but can we see, that all this is one vision? Right?
Aber können wir sehen, dass all dies eine Vision
Line
ist.
upon line.
Line upon line, we need
Linie
to
auf Linie.
rightly divide it and place it line upon line and bring it all together as one vision.
Wir müssen aufs korrekte Weise zerteilen und Linie auf Linie alles zusammenbringen als eine Vision.
And all brings us always points to the end. Okay,
Alles weist letztendlich auf das Ende hin.
because Christ is the Alpha and the Omega. He always wants to point to the end. Right?
Christus ist der Alpha und der Omega. Er möchte immer auf das Ende hinweisen.
And this is when all things will be finished, as he says.
Wenn alles abgeschlossen ist, so wie er sagt.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, good. Then maybe just one observation.
Also eine Bemerkung nur.
When we considered now visions 1 to 9 in Daniel,
Also wenn wir die Kapitel oder die Version 1 bis 9 in Daniel in Betracht gezogen haben,
we could see that every vision started at the Sunday laws.
jede Vision soweit ist am Sonntagsgesetz angefangen.
So, but now chapter 10, when we go there tomorrow by God's grace,
Aber jetzt Kapitel 10, wenn wir, so Gott möchte, morgen, wenn wir anschauen.
It's dealing with a revelation.
this dealing with the revelation.
Yes.
This is, as I understand, not starting at the Sunday.
Es behandelt die Offenbarung und so wie ich das verstehe, das ist nicht am Sonntagsgesetz.
Okay, but we will look at this tomorrow by God's grace.
Aber so wie Gott möchte, werden wir das morgen anschauen.
Okay, now let's close with prayer.
Dann lasst uns mit Gebet abschließen.